What is up, everybody? We are back with our team reviews. We're on to our third team of the season. That's the Baltimore Ravens. Dad, we started off with the Falcons and the Cardinals and then the Falcons. So I think this is by far the best team we're going to be talking about so far. What are you expecting from the Ravens this year?
Yeah, big things. There's no contract issues. Right now, the wide receiver room seems well stocked. Not some of the bozos they've had in the past and stuff. J.K. Dobbins is healthy, so there should be Lamar and Mark Andrews. It should be these guys. These guys should look pretty good, and they should be very good fantasy. Very good team in the NFL and the AFC.
Yep. I mean, I don't know what the Super Bowl odds and all that are, but they should be one of the favorites, in my opinion. And just an overall really good team and kind of an interesting team to think about for fantasy. So we'll share the depth chart we have here with you guys, and we'll get right into it. I mean, the quarterback position, it's Lamar, and when the guy plays, he's one of the best in the NFL, one of the best for fantasy football. Currently, he's being drafted as the quarterback 5 and just early 4th round. So, Dad, do you like Lamar this year for fantasy football? Do you think he could return to that 2019 and even 2020 form where he played, the whole season and was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL?
Yeah, I do. The big thing that's changing, besides having some new receivers, and things like that, is he's got a different offensive coordinator. So the last guy, I think his name was Greg Roman. He's the guy who kind of patterned the offense after Lamar's running ability and stuff like that. And we don't quite know what this new guy, what the offense is going to look like. But I still think there's going to be, some running chances, and they're going to exploit them and things like that. But
yeah, I agree with that. What we're hearing is like it's going to be faster. I think they are going to try to get him to run the pass the ball more, which is probably for the better. But I do expect a downtick in his total rushing yards. But like even then, he's still going to put up huge rushing numbers. Like a downtick for Lamar, since he became the starter, he's been averaging over 1,000 yards a season. He had 1,200 yards in 2019, just over 1,000 in 2020. He had 767 in 2021 in 12 games. So if you stat that out to a 17-game season, that's almost 1,100 yards. And he had basically the same amount in 12 games last year. So I don't think he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher, but he's still going to be a 700-yard rusher. I can't imagine they just completely go away from, because it's a huge weapon for them, right? Like the guy is so talented, he can bust off an 80-yard run. So I still expect him to put up 700 yards rushing. And obviously the uptick in passing. So Lamar, to me, is going to be a stud. I'd take him right now. Joe Burrow's going over him. I think I'd take Lamar as my QB4. Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, and then probably Lamar for me. Dad, I know you like Burrow, so you're probably there with agreeing with the ADP right now with Burrow over Lamar.
I don't know. That's a Burrow is obviously going to throw 4,500 yards in his sleep, maybe 4,800 yards, and the receiver. So, I mean, just talking about Lamar and the running capability, if Lamar's 3,500 yards, but he's got 1,000 yards, or he's got 800 yards rushing, that's hard to overlook, and those are legitimate numbers and stuff like that. So,
yep, they are. And the reality is, Lamar has missed 5 games the last 2 years, so we can't ignore that either. So I think there's less of a risk of that with Burrow. But I think he's going to stay healthy this year. It's always hard to predict injuries, but I think he'll stay healthy. So do you think if you have Lamar, do you think you should also have Tyler Huntley on your team, or do you just not worry about that and go another quarterback?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd be looking elsewhere, for a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead.
No, he doesn't thrill me. I know he's had some good games and stuff like that, and he's he probably fits into the Ravens to the roster pretty well and stuff like that, and he kind of keeps the team competitive, but he doesn't have much of a vibe to him as far as excitement or typical typical backup quarterback in the NFL. There's just not a lot of them that really thrill me too much.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe in like Dynasty, if you want to pair them together, just to have a super flex, have a starting quarterback. But we'll move on to the running backs. Another intriguing bunch. They didn't do anything really to the running back room. They have back again J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, the guys that have been there the last few years. And again, they didn't add to the running back room. The only thing they added was Keaton Mitchell, and I'm pretty sure he was an undrafted free agent. Yes, he was. He wasn't even drafted. So, Justice Hill has been there the last couple of years, still there. Gus Edwards, probably going to be the number 2 guy. J.K. Dobbins. Dad, you excited about Dobbins this year? And 1 year he's a complete, now 2 years basically off of his major knee injury. He's currently going as the RB19, and you have to get him at the end of the 4th round. So he's going in the same round as Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. Dad, do you like J.K. Dobbins this year for fantasy? What do you think? What do you think his numbers that he could put up?
Yeah, I like Dobbins. The only thing I don't like him, he's from Ohio State, but that's a whole separate thing. But as a pro player on the Ravens, I do like him. Unfortunately, he got hurt in preseason his second year, and that kind of made for a half-ass year last year. So, it's his contract year, so we know how disrespected the running backs are and things like that. So this guy, I think, is going to put up, I think he's going to put up some numbers, and he's pretty good out of the backfield. Gus Edwards is a very good complement to J.K. Dobbins. He's kind of a bigger guy. He's almost 240 pounds, and he kind of smashes it up in there a little bit when he gets it. He's I like that dude too. I don't know if I'd have him on my fantasy team if Dobbins was hurt, I wouldn't have a problem picking up Gus Edwards. And
yeah, I agree with that. Dobbins is interesting. I am warming up to the idea of taking him 4th round. It's tough for me. It is tough for me to get there. Actually, I think I said, I think 5th round is what I meant to say if I said 4th round. 5th round, not so bad. Not so bad. He's looking at his career. Even last year, coming back from that knee injury, he averaged 5.7 yards a carry, which is insane. He averages 5.9 for his career. He averaged 6 yards a carry his rookie year.
He had a second surgery, and I think that scared everybody. But he did come back from that second surgery, about mid-season, I think, and he looked pretty good and stuff like that. I want to go back to Gus Edwards. So he's been with the Ravens for 4 years. The first 3 years, he rushed for over 700 yards each season.
Yep.
This is a backup. Last year it was only 433 because he only played 9 games, but those are some pretty good numbers for your for your backup running back on your team, over 700 yards, that's pretty good stuff. So,
yeah, I look at J.K. Dobbins as kind of like I can see him doing what Miles Sanders did last year, of 1,250 yards, maybe double-digit touchdowns. We'll see. Not really doing much in the passing game because Ravens haven't shown to do that. And if he averages 5.5 yards a carry, which is way under his career average of 5.9, even if he only gets 210 touches, which isn't a lot, 210 touches over a 17-game season is only 12 touches a game. Even if he only gets that, but he averages 5.5 yards a carry, you're looking at a 1,150, 1,200-yard season because of that yards per carry. So I can see him putting up that kind of season, having a top 14 type of season at the running back position. Gus Edwards, yeah, I mean, probably not justifiable to have him on your fantasy team unless Dobbins goes down. A guy I will say, if we're ever going to talk about from any team, a deep sleeper is Keaton Mitchell, the rookie. I think he easily passes Justice Hill as the third guy, and he could pass Gus Edwards as the second guy. Youth has a little more juice. And he was very intriguing coming out of ECU, just broke a lot of tackles and was kind of an intriguing prospect. So a guy to just keep an eye out for. I'm not saying you should draft him or anything, but just an intriguing prospect type of player. So we can move on to the wide receivers, Dad, unless you want to say anything about these running backs.
No, I think we beat those running backs to death. So,
okay. So moving on, the receiving core is quite interesting. Very deep receiving core. Just looking at this, you got probably the top three are going to be Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham. Those are probably going to be the two on the field most of the time, and then Zay Flowers, I assume, will come in on 3 wide receiver sets. The rookie first-round pick, and then even past that, you got like Nelson Aguilar and Devin Duvernay who flashed for them last year. Those guys, those are nice to have for your 4th and 5th receivers, I'd say. Dad, if you had to put money on Bateman, Beckham, Zay Flowers, who leads this team in targets?
Wow, in targets, I think.
And yards. If you want to do yards, it's fine too.
Yeah. Well, I think here's how I think it's going to play out. I think, this is, of course, if everybody's not injured and all that other stuff, and they play. I think Bateman will probably seem to get the more targets, but Beckham will definitely be a major impact, I think. I know he hasn't played football in, a year and a half and stuff like that, but his knee's been operated on twice and stuff like that. So, but I think Bateman will get the majority of the targets, the catches, things like that. Yeah. So,
yeah, for the receivers, obviously Mark Andrews is probably going to lead this team in targets, but
definitely,
for the receivers, yeah. I mean, just looking at their ADP here, you can get Rashad Bateman in the middle of the 10th round. I think he's the highest. He's the highest Ravens receiver. It's Bateman, and then Flowers is like right after him, and then Odell Beckham is about a round after those guys, which is kind of interesting because everyone's talking about Lamar's going to be great, passing game, this offense is going to be good, yet their top receiver is not going until the 10th round. It's a little like, okay, well, does that really make sense? So I'm kind of in on Bateman at that ADP. If I can get him, maybe the top target getter, on the wide receiver core for the Ravens, who I expect to be
kind of in offense. On Beckham at that.
Yeah, one of those guys, right?
Absolutely.
This is I always talk about this, like when you have these really good offenses and you don't have like a clear cut, this is the guy. Take a chance on one of them at least. Especially when you can get them in double-digit rounds, 10th, 11th round for one of these guys. Get a piece of them, and who knows, right? Who knows if Zay Flowers is the main guy Who knows if it's Rashad Bateman? Bateman was really good to start the year last year. Only played in 5 games. I think he got hurt. He played the first 3 weeks, and he had 2 catches, 59 yards, a touchdown, 4 catches, 108 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches, 59 yards, no touchdowns. That was his first 3 weeks. And then he basically got hurt in week 4 and was, came back for 2 weeks, but was never the same and missed the rest of the season. So he looked good, and Lamar looked good with him. And he is a first-round pick. I think people forget that. Bateman was the 27th overall pick in a pretty good receivers draft, I believe. If it was 2021, that was the Jamar Chase, Waddle, Devontae Smith draft. So, he was a first-round pick, and he has a lot of potential. So I'm definitely excited to get a piece of one of those guys, any of them, at the current ADP. So I think Bateman is my main guy. But anything else on those wide receivers, Dad? Zay Flowers?
No, I think Zay Flowers should fit in. We scouted him. I shouldn't say scout. We took a look at him when we were doing our rookie videos, and for Boston College, he was the man. He looked pretty good, so he could fit in perfectly. But we're gonna talk about Andrews.
Yep, we'll get to Andrews. I like Flowers. I think he's just going to be a weapon for that team, and he could be like Tyreek Hill-esque, not to that quality or something, but just moved around and used all over the place and just causes fits for defenses. So
I wish the Chargers would have drafted him instead of Quentin Johnson, but
yeah, I was there too. He was there too. So we'll see how it works out. That's just hit me right now. That's 3 first-round receivers they have. Bateman, Beckham, and Zay Flowers, all first-rounders. So, and Nelson Aguilar, no, he wasn't a first-rounder, but I think he was like a second-rounder. So, he's your fourth. No, he was a first-rounder. That's right. So you have 4 first-round receivers. Yeah.
Is he Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Eagles didn't pan out, obviously, but 4 first-round receivers on your team. You better do something, Lamar.
No kidding.
Mark Andrews, this is the main guy in this offense. He's going to make it all go. Problem is, you're going to have to take him very high. Tight end 2 currently. And if you want him, you have to get him in the late 3rd round, which I don't think is terrible if you really believe in him. Mark Andrews is a stud. I think people forget maybe that this guy had a 1,400-yard season in 2021, which is absolutely insane for a receiver. That's an amazing season for a receiver. It's kind of unheard of for a tight end, especially in except for the last couple of years, really. Was tight end 1 in 2021, and even last year where he was kind of hurt, missed some games. Lamar wasn't there. Mark Andrews was still the tight end 5 in standard, and in half PPR, he was the tight end 4, and he was one of 4 tight ends to average double-digit points in half PPR. It was Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle, and Andrews. So even though he kind of had a disappointing season, he still averaged double-digit points. Dad, is he your tight end 2 behind Kelsey?
Yeah, definitely. He's the money man. He makes catching passes look pretty easy from the tight end position. Some guys have it, and he's prototypical tight end size. 6'5", between 255 and 260 and stuff, and he's good. So
yeah, 1,360 yards he had, so not 1,400, but still, that's an insane number. There's a few people out there who say that it's not out of the realm of possibility that Mark Andrews is actually better than Kelsey, but that just Kelsey is with Mahomes in Kansas City, and Mark Andrews has been with Lamar and a running offense his whole career. Doesn't matter. The guy's good. I would take him as my my tight end too, over Hawkinson or Kittle. So he's one of. I talked about this in a video. He's one of 5 guys that I think has a better than 50% chance to lead their team in targets. It's Kelsey, it's Andrews, it's Pitts, it's Waller, and it's Dalton Schultz. But Kelsey and Andrews are special, so don't really have to say much more. Dad, prediction for the Ravens, who are in a pretty tough division. Browns, Bengals, Steelers. Do you think they win the division? Do you think they make the playoffs? If so, how many wins?
Well, I think Cincinnati should win the division. Cleveland's gonna possibly surprise some people with a very good defense. So we're gonna have all these knockout, drag out games within the with Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Cleveland and the Bengals and stuff. Pittsburgh, I guess I don't see them a threat to win the division, but yeah, the Ravens or the Bengals, but this division, that division could have 3 teams in the playoffs.
Yep, I agree with that. They could beat up each other a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens win it and win 11 games or something. So it'll be fun to watch. But we're going to end that video there. Thank you guys for watching. We're going to be back with the Buffalo Bills as we continue our look through each team. So if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel. That's fantastic.